Welcome to the Airbnb Roadmap, the podcast designed to navigate you through the entire journey of short-term rental success. Whether you're just starting out or ready to take your hosting game to the next level. My husband and I became super hosts within just months of launching our first Airbnb and have proudly kept that title ever since. With over 350 reviews and an overall 4.95 star ratings, we picked up a hack or two I'm excited to share with you. In each episode, I break down the strategies, insights, and industry secrets that set profitable short-term rentals apart. From choosing the right property, understanding local regulations, and obtaining your listing to go beyond just the basics. I'm here to share everything you need to succeed. So if you're ready to map out your path to Airbnb success and unlock the full potential of short-term rentals, join me on the Airbnb Roadmap. Your journey starts here. Hey, I'm Brittany Wenninger with Porch Realty, powered by Real Broker LLC, and I am so awful at saying the Real Broker part. And honestly, I'm really bad at saying the Porch Realty part too. But anyways, that is who I am. Today, we're breaking down how to analyze an existing Airbnb before you make the offer. It's just kind of like buying a car. You just wouldn't test drive the car before you buy it. Or, propping the hood up. Actually, I don't even prop the hood up, but I don't even know why I said that, but you know what I mean. So, you shouldn't buy a short-term rental without understanding how it actually performs behind the scenes. That's the point I was trying to make, and I know that was very long, but that's the point I'm trying to make. That you actually need to look at the numbers and figure out what's happening. On paper, a property might look like a turnkey investment with great photos and a calendar full of bookings, but those surface level details can be misleading if you don't know what to look for. Let's start with this. Okay, don't rely on what the seller says. That's the very first thing. Do not rely on them because truthfully, they're just trying to sell their property. They can care less if they mislead you or not. And I know that sounds really crappy, but that's the truth. So ask for the proof. That's the truth. Ask for the proof. Yes, I like that. So ask for the proof. Your first step is to request their Airbnb earning report from the last 12 months. It's a downloadable PDF from their host dashboard. And if they hesitate to prove that or provide that, that's kind of a red flag. So when they do provide that, if and when they do, look at the gross revenue, but also pay attention to how often the property was booked. High revenue with only a few months of bookings might mean it's seasonal or inconsistent. But here's a quick little tip. We love little tips, right? Request their cleaning and management invoices too, so you can understand net income, not just top line numbers. If they are actually a business person, they would have a P&L. So if they provide P&L, even better, because then you can see what is happening. How much is the lawn care? How much is the cleaning? How much is the maintenance? And what they're actually netting at the end of the day. Because gross revenue is just the amount of money that you're bringing in through Airbnb or Vrbo or both. That's not actually the number that you are bringing home, and that is actually hitting your bank account. So P&L is awesome, and if they have that, amazing. Once you figure out the finances and you're like, okay, it's not performing that well, but I can definitely change the story for this property, you next want to dig into the reviews. Are guests raving about the place, or are they consistently complaining? And there's a lot of 4-star reviews. So look at the pattern. If 5 guests are mentioning that the beds are uncomfortable or the street is noisy, believe them. The reviews will tell you more than the listing ever will. And they reveal whether the seller is actually managing the property correctly or they're not. When you look at the reviews, however, if they mention that the beds are uncomfortable, easy. That's something that you can change right away. But if they are saying that it's just really noisy because of the street and they can't sleep, that's something that you can't really change. And you have to decide, okay, if I buy this property, will I have the same complaints? Or can I figure out a way to, put a white noise machine in there, or, try to figure out a way to actually cure this situation. Now, there might be some reviews about the cleaning. If that's the case, then it might just be that he needs to get a different cleaner. So the reviews, again, tell the story about the property and will give you a great insight on whether you can change the story or the property is kind of just like SOL. Now, once you look over all of the reviews, you also want to check out the occupancy trends. You can use tools like AirDNA, Price Labs, B&B Calc to pull local data. Does the average occupancy match what the seller is claiming? Is the nightly rate inflated? You'll want to make sure that this Airbnb is outperforming the local averages, not just barely hanging on. If the listing is only getting 30% occupancy and the market average is about 60%, that's a problem that you'll probably inherit if you keep the things going how they are going currently. Now, one thing I do want to kind of mention about AirDNA and all of those software programs is that their numbers could be very inflated, to be honest. Or honestly, their numbers might not even be there and it doesn't have enough numbers to support the market. I have found that I have, seen a lot of great markets, but AirDNA says that it's really crappy. So just kind of be a little wary of that. And don't always just rely on AirDNA, because guess what? Everyone else is. And if everyone is seeing an amazing market, and if you are seeing an amazing market, and guess what? Everyone else is too. So don't always rely on the software. Actually put your intuition into play and figure out, hey, is this market actually going to be good or not? But let's actually continue to seasonality. If the buyer is showing you peak summer income in a lake town, you need to ask, what did it earn in February? Ask for month-to-month income breakdowns so you can spot dips and prepare for off-season. You don't want to be surprised by a 6-month down in bookings after closing, especially if you are purchasing in the fall. You need to be prepared that, wintertime might not be very poppin'. And do you have enough reserves to help out with this? Now, with the seasonality though, you just have to remember, Wisconsin, it will have seasonality. Like, that's just a no-brainer. Our goal, honestly, is always just to break even in the wintertime in some of our markets. So that's a thing. But if the existing Airbnb is not performing that well in the summertime and you are in a lake town, that is a huge red flag. And then I have a couple more tips and tricks for you when analyzing a existing Airbnb. So hang in there with me. And I know that this is going to be a shorter episode again, but truthfully, Baby Melanie, she doesn't really have 45 minutes sometimes. So that's why my episodes are kind of getting a little bit shorter, because I am finding every single little tiny time frame to, do the thing that I love, and that's making episodes. So sometimes I only have 15 minutes, and this one's going to be a short one because I can tell she is waking up. So let's just mosey on, okay? Another big one is figuring out who's on their team. Now, some Airbnb hosts will have no problem sharing their contacts, especially once you take ownership. They're going to be like, hey, this is the cleaner, this is the snowplow guy, so on and so forth. That is great. I love when people do that because, it's less effort for you. But if you are saying that those reviews are mentioning that, the cleaning is bad, you might not want to use that cleaner. And, that's just, it is what it is. So just because they provide you the contacts does not mean that you should actually use these people. You want to vet them. You want to give them, that interview like we talked about in a couple other episodes, and so on and so forth. Because at the end of the day, you're just purchasing the property. You are not purchasing the business. And you need to make sure that your management style and your small but mighty team is even better than before. And then the last one that you want to do is evaluate the location. And you know what? Sometimes the location could just be cute. There could be a lot of mature trees and all that stuff, but you want to kind of look past that. Once again, is it even STR legal? AKA, what are the rules and regulations? Did they change over, the time frame that the other person had, and now the other person's grandfathered in? Guess what? An Airbnb is not grandfathered in, meaning that when you purchase it, you have to go through all of the license and permitting again. And if the new rules and regulations are just, very strict, then that's not good for your Airbnb, obviously. And that's why having an agent is really important to know, hey, did the rules and regulations change? Or is this person really just wanting to sell it? So make sure to check out the rules and regulations no matter what. Now, I know that evaluating an existing Airbnb could be pretty scary, but also extremely fun because you're like, hey, I am kind of having a little shortcut. This person's wanting to sell, I want to buy, and so on and so forth. But just make sure to take a step back and honestly take a deep breath too and figure out what's going on, and figure out all of the aspects to an Airbnb. And then at that point, then you can figure out, okay, yep, this is actually a really good opportunity. Or, you know what, I just don't want to take on this project. It's too much of a hassle. And truthfully, there's just too much going on with it that I can't fix. So I hope that all this has really helped you figure out if that property is worth it or not, because in the fall time, that's when a lot of Airbnbs are actually coming up for sale. So kind of prep yourself, because I'm sure that you're going to find a couple properties that you think is, a gold mine and, that shiny diamond in the haystack. But you have to just ask yourself, is it worth it? Can I change the story of this property? But if you need any help with it, what I'm about to say, the Airbnb Roadmap Acceleration course is live, and you will be able to know how to actually manage the Airbnb correctly so you are not in the place where you have to sell. So make sure to check out that course, less than $500, and you will also be able to save $50 because you are a listener. Also, I love to have new investors on this podcast because, this is all about buying your very first short-term rental. So why not hear from the people that are actually doing it? So I prioritize the people that are taking my course. So if you take my course, then you will probably be able to hop on the podcast if you really want to. So till next time, I will see you in the next episode of the Airbnb Roadmap Podcast. Thanks for joining me on the Airbnb Roadmap. If you're loving these episodes and want to keep the conversation going, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share this podcast with someone who's ready to dive into the world of short-term rentals. Got a question or topic you would love to hear about? Reach out. This podcast is all about learning and growing together. And don't forget to follow me on Instagram, the Airbnb Roadmap Podcast, for more tips, tricks, and behind-the-scene insights. Until next time, here's to turning your short-term rental dreams into thriving realities. I'll see you back here soon.